Good evening, everybody. Are we live streaming on YouTube? Excellent. Um, Audience of yeah, 10. Good evening. I'm Councillor Stuart Jeffrey, Leader of the Council. I'm pleased to welcome you to this meeting of the Cabinet. May I take this opportunity to advise you that if the fire alarm does sound, please remain seated, and members of the Democratic Services team will assess the situation and tell you which direction to run in, give further instructions on the evacuation of the building. Tonight's proceedings will be webcast, as I said. If anyone else is intending to record, can you let me know now? No, good. I ask this question not to stop you, but to merely ensure members of the public in the room, all of them, know that this is taking place. Item 1 is apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Simon Wales and from Councillor Stephen Thompson. I don't think there are any other apologies, because everyone else is here. Item 2, urgent items. There is an urgent update this evening, which is the summary of feedback received from overview of scrutiny and the policy advisory committees. Are you happy with the urgent item? Lovely. Item 3, no visiting members that I can see. Nothing on the screen either. Item 4, are there any disclosures by members and or officers? No, no disclosures. Excellent. Are there any disclosures of lobbying? No. Excellent. Item 6, I move that all items be taken in public. Is that agreed? Item 7, I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of November 25 be approved as a correct record and signed. Is that agreed? Item 8, there are no petitions. Item 9, there are no questions from local residents. Item 10, there are no questions from members. Item 11, there are no matters referred to the Cabinet by another committee for reconsideration. Item 12, there are no issues arising from overview and scrutiny. 13, there are no matters referred to the Cabinet by any other committee. Item 14, there are no matters relating to serious service failure or nuisance. And item 15, there are no written representations from any members of the Council. So, item 16, Cabinet Forward Plan. Do any members have any comments on the forward plan? No? Okay, so I've heard noted from a few people. Good. So that is noted. Item 17, Council Tax Reduction Scheme. Councillor Summerskill, I think the first of a few items from you.
Thank you. I forgot to bring some water in as well. Anyway, each year the Council has to approve Council Tax Reduction Scheme for the following year, and in July this year we approved a consultation on potential changes to the Council Tax Reduction Scheme with effect from April next year. This report sets out the results of the consultation in an appendix. Just for background, the Council Tax Reduction Scheme was introduced in April 2013 to replace council tax benefit, which at the time gave ratepayers 100% reduction as unemployed and lower paid. We introduced the scheme, and we're now managing these. In the last couple of years, preceptors have lost some of the costs we got. The administering the CTRS was originally, we got about 177,000 from Kent County Council for that, and in the you'll see in 2.4 and 2.5 in your notes there was another administration for empty property discounts. So a proposal was put forward to KCC members, not by the current group there, but by the previous ruling group on KCC, to remove these grants from district authorities, and as part of the county's proposed savings, so £300,000 disappeared from Mason Borough Council's management at that time. So we're in no way in changing the council tax reduction scheme going anywhere towards covering that removal by the previous county administration. So it's a regressive tax, and it falls proportionately more heavily on lower income households, and it also costs us a lot more staff time to recover the very small elements of the 20% that still remains paid by some residents. It's also relevant that one of the council's key strategic objectives was to build resilient communities in which social and economic challenges of poverty are addressed. So the proposal for the council tax reduction scheme put forward gives us an opportunity to contribute directly towards the achievement of this objective and to mitigate poverty. The details are all in the document there. They've been through PAC and have all been okayed with PAC. So unless there are details to come in for more detail, I just leave that with the rest of the Cabinet to discuss.
Thanks, Mike. Sorry, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to add that if the proposals go ahead and we move to a 100% scheme, excuse me, it will give us time to concentrate on the people that are just below being in receipt of council tax support and help them through the year with paying, you know, setting up the right arrangements, and then really tackling the people that won't pays rather than the can't pays. And so that we'll be able to use the recovery team. It came out from the consultation that there's lots of people really struggling to pay their council tax, along with all their other utility bills and housekeeping and things. The cost of council tax has risen significantly over the last few years, so it has become harder for people. Thank you.
Thank you. Clearly, the commitment to helping those on the lowest income feels absolutely the right thing to do, and I'm really pleased we are in a position to be able to do this. So I'm happy. Mike, I assume you're proposing the motion on page 19. I'm
Yes.
very happy to second that. Are there any other comments from Cabinet? Clive?
Quite a few residents in my own ward will be helped by this proposal. I think some of the negative comments that have come forward from KCC and some other places do not understand the impact that relatively small financial decisions can have on the lowest paid and most vulnerable members of society. And to be honest, a lot of these people would be put in quite a difficult position if they were required to pay even a percentage of council tax, and there's no benefit in pursuing people, as has been mentioned, who won't pay is another matter entirely. People like some of the demonstrators who turned up at County Hall yesterday who want public services but don't believe they should pay council tax because, hey, they're sovereign individuals, and people like that we need to pursue. But the poorest and the most vulnerable, it's going to cost us almost as much to pursue them as we would get back. So I think this is not only fair, but administratively the right thing to do, because pursuing diminishing returns is not an efficient use of local government staff time or resources.
Thank you, Clive. Okay, I see no one else indicating. So are we happy to agree per the papers, which is to recommend to full council, because this is a full council decision? Are we agreed? Good, thank you. Okay, item 18, fees and charges, to be introduced by Mike, number 2.
Thank you. Let me find the page on this. Thank you. Sorry for that. In brief, the covering of the fees and charges has generally been uplifted in 5 to 6% in range with our costs. The charging policy is in place at council's discretion, and we're just seeking to ensure that they're reviewed regularly and budget managers have the correct guidance and decisions are based on relevant and accurate information. It doesn't apply to services where the council's prohibited from charging, which concludes, as I saw somebody being issued one on my way in, parking penalty fees for using a disabled space without a badge, or the collection of household waste. So where we had some discussion at policy, P&C, PACS, and about why percentages were not the ones we said in the covering letter, it's because certain charges are fixed by central government or other organisations. I should just cover some of the points in the PAC discussions that we had. An important one was a charge on from cemetery on burials of stillborn children, but I can confirm, as has been pushed around to the PAC members, that that is not charged to any of the unfortunate parents who've suffered that. It's a national charge that's recovered from central government. And also somebody cleverly pointed out that the charges for premium access to the museum for a family was more than the cost of 2 adults and 2 children. So that mathematical error has been corrected, and it is now less than the cost of 2 adults and 2 children, and it does allow a 3rd child to go along, but not as in line with central government, any number of children receiving the benefit. And also the HACC PAC wished to have a briefing note on road closure fee responsibilities, but it's not our responsibility. It's again county. So I hope that one's dealt with, and I think that covered the various points in the PAC. We had discussions from PAC members about the parking charges rising by 12.5% to 15% this year. I had to remind a couple of members that that was the second stage of a 2-year scheme that we introduced last year. So some memories are not as long as they can be. But I'd like to recommend this list of fees and charges to the Cabinet.
Thanks, Mike. Clive, I assume you're seconding. Before I bring you in, Mark, is there anything else you want to add?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Clive.
I mean, to refer to the last point that Mike made, it's also worth reminding people that the reason that the car parking charges went up by what appears a large percentage is the officers' recommendations for increases in previous years have not happened. So if you look over the longer term period, it's actually not much more than an inflation increase over that period. But it's dangerous if one keeps charges down to an unrealistic level. It inevitably means that a few years later they have to rise very, very steeply. So it's best to try and look at these things on a trajectory that delivers some degree of predictability over a period of time. The fees and charges have been, not just the parking ones, have been looked at very, very thoroughly, and I think we can see that by the absence of recommended changes to the fees and charges schedule. Most of the requests were for further information in relation to things like fly tipping, which will be dealt with. And so I think the fact that the PACs have not recommended significant changes, really any changes, is a reflection of the work that's been done by officers and members so far, and I think we should get on with implementing them, as it's part of it's a key part of our budget strategy moving forward. If we don't do that, we'll have to find the money somewhere else.
Thanks, Clive. It's also worth mentioning that there's been no reduction in the use of the car parks after last year's increase, which is what we expected, but that was one of the concerns that was raised 12 months ago.
on that, analysis over the years show that parking demand is relatively inelastic and not particularly, unless there's very steep rises, not particularly susceptible to relatively small price changes.
Thank you. Any other comments from Cabinet members? Okay, it's been proposed per the papers by Mike, seconded by Clive. Are we in agreement? Agreed. Fantastic. Item 19, half-year performance report. To be introduced by, who's that by? Oh, by Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Performance management is a critical tool for ensuring the Borough Council delivers on its corporate priorities, and the monitoring of key performance indicators gives us a lot of comfort as councillors that we know what's going on. And I'd like at this point to comment that the officers involved in putting all this dashboard on the website and everything is a wonderful effort, and compliment them on their thoroughness and work in this field. The interactive dashboard is also refreshed monthly, where monthly data exists, and so we can look at looking at performance far more frequently than I think we were used to in previous years. 65 KPIs are spread across these portfolios, and more than half of them met the half-yearly target, but a quarter have missed the target by more than a 10% tolerance. I don't intend to go in detail, but if some of you wish to question those details, we can cover that in the discussion. Almost a half of the KPIs show an improvement in performance compared to the previous 6 monthly period, from October 24 to March 25th, and 40% are showing an improvement compared to this same period of 6 months last year. In your papers, a summary of the positive performances is provided in item 2.7, and the key challenges where we are not meeting our targets is in item 2.8. This was presented to the PACs, and the only recommendation we came out of the PAC was a request for a briefing note regarding fly tipping, because the response to fly tipping appeared to have been declining, although I could report that one fly tip to the weekend in Hunton was cleared by 10:30 on Monday morning as I passed it going back home. So the performance position at the end of the first half should be recommended to be noted, but actions being taken are listed there, and the positive points are there. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Clive.
Just on the fly tipping, there has been a dramatic amount of action by the Waste Crime Unit over the last few weeks and months, and a lot of those are cases that are in process or pending, so obviously we can't comment on them because they're still part of the process, but I can assure you that there has been a lot of action taking place, and including vehicle seizures and in parts of the borough. And action to clear up fly tipping is not declining, it's taking place on a very regular basis. The statistics are sometimes lumpy because it can be difficult to clear sites that are on private land as opposed to public land. It's not always easy to either gain access or even establish whose responsibility it is. So it's not always straightforward, but it hasn't been a decline in activity.
Thank you. The overall picture on fly tipping from our perspective is a good one in terms of the actions that are being taken. Clearly, there is a national perspective on fly tipping, particularly around organised crime, that is deeply troubling. Are there any other comments on the report? Okay. The report's for noting. It did have obviously quite a long discussion at each of the 3 PACs, so hopefully the key points came through there. So are we happy to note this report? Noted. Fantastic. And then Finally, item 20, this is the second quarter financial update report. Again, who's introducing this? Oh, it's Mike.
Sure, nobody wants to butt in. No. Thank you. Okay, this report sets out the financial performance for the services up to the end of September, so half a year. I'd remind Cabinet, though probably don't need reminding, that we set a balanced revenue and capital budget for this year, and the overall position halfway through the year is that we're now expecting to have an underspend of about £200,000, which is a better position than the expected break even after the first quarter. I would indicate that we've got a net expenditure of 15 in capital is one particularly where we've got a net expenditure that's far below the budget allocation at the moment, and some of the reasoning for this is that projects are back towards the second half of the year, or some of them moving into the next year, which is what we're looking at in the current budget. In the revenue terms, we've got a net expenditure of 7.2 million against a profile budget of 8.9 million. But there is still expenditure to come there. The benefits here are that we have money in the bank earning interest at a decent rate. But on the contrary, we also have a lot more for accommodation for people that don't have anywhere, but those numbers do appear to be plateauing, if not declining. So we're hoping that we may end up with an even better underspend than predicted, but nothing is guaranteed, of course. We're not at the end of the third quarter yet. And a lot of the numbers in the papers, especially in the appendix, I wonder if Mark has anything to add.
Thanks, Mike. Mark, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing to add on the second quarter figures. It may be worth just mentioning that our focus is now moving on to preparation of the budget for next year, and an important piece of the jigsaw there has fallen into place today with the government's announcement of the local government finance settlement for next year. We still need to work through the details, but on the face of it, it looks reasonably good news in that our core spending power, which is the way that the government measure local authority resources, has gone up from 37.4 million to 38.1 million, an increase of 700,000. So it's a small increase, but it's going in the right direction. There was a fear that there would actually be a loss of resources coming out of the change to the fair funding regime, but further details will be reported to the PACS and to the Cabinet in January.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, so some good news there, and thank you for the report, Mike. One of the things, I mean, you said it's good news that we've got an underspend. Certainly one of the things that I remember from my NHS days was to never have an underspend, because it means you haven't spent money on the public. So let's try and get it as close to break even as we can to make sure we've spent the taxpayers' money on things that benefit the public. So we will obviously make sure we do that. Mark, can I have one quick question from you in terms of the temporary accommodation, which is showing at about minus 280 as a forecast? The temporary accommodations come down by 25% this year. It would be useful to know if that is a small c conservative forecast, or whether that might be there is a potential for that figure to improve over the coming months.
Thank you, Chair. I think there is potential for it to improve, because even since these papers were prepared, we've seen a continued reduction in the numbers in temporary accommodation. Offsetting that, though, there is an increased cost in the rate that we're having to pay for nightly paid accommodation, and we're also, although we're putting more and more homeless people into our own accommodation, we're also having to fund the cost of maintenance of that accommodation. So it's not entirely good news, but I think it would be fair to say that that is a conservative estimate for the year.
Thank you. Any other comment? Mike?
Yes, I'd just like to come back to you that I am from Yorkshire, so we don't like spending money unnecessarily.
I assume it's not your round after this then. Any other comments from Cabinet members? No? Okay. The report is for noting. It's obviously had quite a long discussion at each of the packs again, so which we were all in attendance at. So is this report noted? Fantastic. And with that, I close this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks, Dave.